Hi everyone, and welcome to the second part of the Eurofly 3 audio tutorial series. And in this next one, we are going to dive straight into the huge and complex settings screen. So without any further ado, let's get started. World Profile Speaker Settings.
Settings window. Tab Control. General tab selected. Path to user data edit read only C. Users Lucas OneDrive HRY Eurofly 3 users data.
This window is split into several tabs, and as you can see, when you open it, it starts in the General tab, and the first thing we landed on is the Edit field with the path to the user's data folder. I was mentioning that in the previous part of the tutorial. Basically, this is if you're using a portable version, this subfolder is stored in the same huge big main game folder with the launcher and with everything else, whereas in the installed version, this would be stored in your documents. So you can see the path here in this edit field. You can check it out. Now, if we press tab,
portable version checkbox checked.
There's the portable version checkbox because I did choose portable when first launching the game and downloading all the files. But if I now unchecked this box,
not checked.
And if I take a look back into the edit field,
change button. Path to user data edit read only C. Users Lucas OneDrive document Microsoft Eurofly 3.
You see that it has actually changed automatically to where it should be for the installed version. So if I change my mind after having used the program for some time already and decide I no longer want to use the portable version, but I want to switch to the installed mode, unchecking this checkbox in settings will actually change the path to your user's data folder accordingly. And after that edit field, on the next tab press, there's a new button that has just appeared.
Change button. And
that's change. So with the installed version, you can actually have it placed anywhere on your system that you like.
Portable checked.
So let's get back to the portable version.
Profile Manager button.
The next button opens up the Profile Manager, which we have already fully covered in the previous part. So this is where you can create and restore, edit, or delete existing profiles, and it's available not only from the main menu, but also here from the settings screen.
Languages button.
Languages. Let's take a look at those.
Language settings dialog. Installed languages combo box English collapsed.
So the first control in this new window that pops up is the combo box with all of the currently installed languages that I have in my game. When I arrowed through this combo box,
Slovak,
you see English and Slovak.
English.
So these are the installed languages.
Available languages combo box collapsed.
And the next combo box is available languages. So if there were more translations into other languages already available and having been made for the game, this is where you could select another language from. There are no more available languages in my case because I have both of the ones that are currently done. I have them installed. But if there were some more languages on the server that I didn't have installed, you could choose one here, and then with the next press of the tab key, there would be the activate button. You would click it, and that would download the language from the server for you and switch your game to it. It would tell you that the language change is only going to take effect the next time that the program is started. So you would need to do that, and your language would be switched.
Installed languages combo box English collapsed. Slovak.
If I decide to switch my language to another one of those that I already do have installed, I could choose it here in this first combo box.
Activate Slovak
and
button.
There would be the Activate Slovak button.
Remove Slovak button.
Or I could remove the language from the installed ones.
Communicator languages button.
The next button in the languages dialog would open up yet another nested dialog, and this one is for the languages to be used in the communicator feature. But we'll talk about the communicator in full detail in a subsequent part of this series.
OK button carriage return.
So that's all in the languages dialog.
Tab control. General tab select voice button.
The next button in the main settings screen is voice.
Voice settings dialog. Program interface voice combo box screen reader collapsed.
There are two combo boxes here, and in both of them you can choose whether you want to use the screen reader, the voice that your actual screen reader is using, because if you choose this, the game then talks directly to your running screen reader.
SAPI 5.
Or SAPI 5 or SAPI 5. And you can do
map voice combo box screen reader
selection both for the
program interface voice,
map voice
combo box,
and for the map voice, meaning that you can have the two parts of the program talk to you in different voices.
Program
interface voice means messages from the program itself, or like from your airplane during flight or while taxiing on the airport, whereas map voice is used only to read out loud the information from the world map as you, for example, as you fly over a city, or when your location changes, you've just arrived in a new country or city, or you just started to fly over a body of water, over a sea, for instance. So this kind of information is what the map selection here is used for. My recommended configuration would be
program interface voice combo box screen reader collapsed.
The screen reader voice for the program interface messages, so that it'll actually talk through your screen reader, whether it is NVDA or JAWS.
Map voice combo box screen reader collapsed. SAPI 5.
And to use the SAPI 5 voice for the map. That way you will be able to tell, just by hearing a different voice, you'll immediately be able to tell which kind of information is just being presented to you.
Prefix negative numbers by the word minus checkbox checked.
The next checkbox, well, because sometimes some voices, some voice syntheses don't correctly pronounce negative numbers if they're read on their own. Like if, for example, if the nose angle of your plane was currently -20, meaning that you're not climbing, but rather descending quite sharply at that, with your nose being actually pointed downwards at a 20-degree angle. Some SAPI voices don't read this properly. So if that's your case, you can check this box here and it'll say the word negative before every negative number. You need to test this out and see, and maybe uncheck this checkbox, because otherwise, if your voice doesn't have any issues with this, what could happen to you is that you would be hearing, for example, -20 if the checkbox was checked.
SAPI voice combo box Microsoft David desktop collapsed.
Here we can choose the actual SAPI voice if we chose one for either the program interface messages or for the map readouts. You can actually specify which of the voices installed on your system you want to use for that.
Rate combo box 3 collapsed.
You can also set its rate.
Volume combo box 100 collapsed.
Or volume of the voice.
Sample button.
And finally, there's the sample button.
This is the sample text for testing SAPI voices.
So you can check out what the voice is going to sound like with your current settings.
OK button carriage return.
Okay, that's it for the voice dialog.
Tab control. General tab selected. Voice button.
The next thing in the main settings screen,
volume settings button,
is the volume settings button. This brings up the volume mixer that I was also already talking about in the previous part, and which you can also bring up at any time during the actual game with Control-Shift F12. But if you open it from the settings menu, you can always set all the different volume sliders. Whereas if you bring it up in the main menu or during a flight, you will only see the ones that are applicable.
Volume settings dialog.
To
menu combo box 50
context.
collapsed.
So there's the combo box for the main menu music. The next one is
music combo box 30 collapsed.
It says music, but this one is used in flight or in map exploration, where if you want to listen to the different music changing as you move from country to country, or for example, as you fly over a sea, this kind of music is what this volume setting changes.
Map combo box 100 collapsed.
Map is a setting for the various noises made either in flight or in manual map exploration as you move. So for example, if you cross a country border.
Cities and waypoints combo box 100 collapsed.
Cities and waypoints are two kinds of beacons that may be playing for you. Both can be turned on or off separately, independently of one another. But what they do is anytime during your flight, you can use audio navigation. You can add or remove different waypoints into your navigation system. And if you had some of these added and you have turned on the respective audio indication for the navigation, that would be another kind of audio cue that you could hear beeping periodically as you approach a given waypoint, and it would then fade out as you as the distance between you and the waypoint increases again. Same goes for the capital city indication. It's just a different sound, but both cues are governed by this one volume setting.
Height above sea level combo box 100 collapsed.
Height above sea level is another kind of a beacon or audio indication that you can turn on or off at any time. And when it's turned on, it's used both in manual map exploration as well as in flight to actually audibly indicate the height of the sea level. Like if you were flying or moving over the sea, where the sea level is always constant, the tone of the sea level indication would keep playing always at the same pitch. It's a constant, continuous tone. But if you were flying or moving over land, over terrain with like hills and mountains, the tone would still keep playing continuously as long as you have the respective feature itself enabled. I'll tell you how to turn it on or off when we actually get to it in the map exploration or in the flight itself. But if it's on, the tone would still keep playing continuously, but its pitch would either raise or drop as the sea level of the terrain below you raises or drops.
Navigation combo box 50 collapsed.
Navigation is another beeping indication that audibly guides us. If you turn on the audio navigation to a specific destination, like to an airport, this kind of sound will always play from the position of where that waypoint is in relation to you. So, for example, if I set my audio navigation to the London Heathrow Airport, it would always keep playing as long as it's on, either like ahead of me or to my left or to my right, telling me where I need to turn or in which direction I need to turn, how I need to change my course in order to be flying directly towards it. So that's the volume for the navigation.
Engines combo box 30 collapsed.
Engines is the volume for the engines of your own airplane as it moves.
Planes combo box 10 collapsed.
Planes is used for other planes, so not your airplane, but the others that may be flying or taxiing near you.
Radios combo box 30 collapsed.
Radios will affect the volume of sounds that play as you overhear the radio communication between the voices of other pilots that happen to be flying nearby or happen to be tuned to the same frequency as you are. So this volume does not control the loudness of your radio or of the air traffic controller that you are talking to, but the radios of other pilots. Basically, other players.
Airport combo box 10 collapsed.
Airport are the ambient sounds of the airport as such. As you're taxiing along an airport, this volume setting controls the volume of the various sounds that you might hear while moving along the airport.
Beacons combo box 100 collapsed.
Beacons are sound cues that inform you of an approaching turning to a taxiway or runway or to a gate, etc. So there's always a beacon for that so that you can tell where that taxiway or where that gate is and where you need to turn. And this volume controls these beacons.
Towers combo box 100 collapsed.
Towers are the voices of the actual air traffic controllers themselves. So basically this volume controls how loud your air traffic controller talks to you.
Stewards combo box 30 collapsed.
Stewards are the voices of the actual steward or stewardess on board of your airplane.
Cabin combo box 50 collapsed.
Cabin are the noises that you can hear in the airplane, like if you board or onboard passengers and they are getting on or off the plane and sitting down and talking to each other or applauding you after landing. All of that is under the cabin volume.
Weather combo box 30 collapsed.
Weather, I think this is self-explanatory. This controls the volume of the weather sounds that you can hear while flying. So the wind or the rain or a thunderstorm and so on.
Wind combo box 10 collapsed.
Wind is a separate volume. This is not related to the weather. This is flow of air that your plane creates as it moves. So while flying in air, the faster you fly, the louder the sound of the airflow around your airplane could be.
Ground combo box 100 collapsed.
Ground is the sound that you can hear when taxiing on the ground. So the sound that your wheels make as they move along the surface.
Ventilation combo box 30 collapsed.
Ventilation obviously makes sure the air keeps circulating. It should always be on during a flight, and it could also get quite loud, so you can turn it down a bit here.
Battery combo box 100 collapsed.
Battery is the power supply of any airplane. So basically, before you can even turn on the onboard computer, not to mention the engines, before you can start any of the other systems of the airplane, you need to turn on the battery. And again, it needs to be on all the time during your flight. The sound could also be intrusive for some, so you can turn it down here.
Tones combo box 50 collapsed.
Tones, in this case, it's talking about the tones that you can hear as you're turning or as your nose is raised or lowered. So whenever you're either turning or climbing or descending, there are audio cues playing to let you know that your airplane's course or altitude is changing. And these tones are controlled by the tones volume setting.
Interface messages combo box 100 collapsed.
Interface messages are basically when your plane is talking to you, when you're turning on or off the various onboard systems like the computer, or say when you're flying through clouds, or when the plane is warning you of imminent engine damage. These are the interface messages.
Systems combo box 100 collapsed.
Systems are other systems that give you warnings that also beep or make audio cues besides talking, such as when you're about to collide with the ground, or if your speed, fuel, or altitude is too low, if you're too near to the edge of a taxiway, and so on.
Other combo box 100 collapsed.
And other are other sounds, usually of your airplane, that didn't fit into any other category. So sounds such as raising or lowering your landing gear or your flaps and so on.
Messages combo box 100 collapsed.
And the last volume control is for messages. These are related to the communicator. If you decide to use the communicator and you have it turned on and people are writing to you, so you've received some messages from other players, these are the communicator's notification sounds to let you know that you got a new message. But as I said, we'll be talking about the communicator in a later part of the series.
OK button carriage return.
So that's it for the volumes.
Tab control. General tab selected. Volume settings button. Communicator button.
The next button on the main settings screen opens up the sub dialog where you can configure your communicator. But since the communicator is a topic in itself, I'll be covering that in yet another part of the series.
Weather button.
Weather button brings up another dialog where you can configure real-world weather reporting. So if you want the weather in the locations that you fly over or that you are exploring on the map to match the actual real-world weather at the moment at that location, you can configure this here.
Weather settings dialog. API key edit 8B3B3 sub 90 a
You see that it's asking you for your API key. That is the key you need to obtain from the service that provides the weather data that Eurofly is linked to. And when setting this up for the first time, you're not going to have the API key yet. So that's what the next button in here is for.
Get an API key button.
Get an API key. This will open up a web page in your web browser where you'll need to register first for that service. That process is quite simple and straightforward, and you will be guided through it. So you register your account and you can obtain the API key from there. Then you paste it into the edit field on this screen, and you will no longer need to worry about configuring the weather in any way from that point on. You will just be getting real-life weather data.
OK button carriage. Tab control. General tab selected. Weather button. Sound scheme editor button.
The sound scheme editor is yet another window where you can actually create your own custom sound schemes for, like, you can copy your own music into the game folder to listen to when flying over various countries, or you can set specific radio stations that you want to listen to while flying. But it's also quite a complex topic, so I'll be talking about the sound scheme editor in a separate part of this series as well. So if this interests you, I'd like to recommend listening to that tutorial to you.
Joysticks button.
joysticks, since you can obviously play Eurofly not just with a keyboard but also with a joystick or flight controller if you want to. That's how you can configure that. But again, there will also be a separate part of the tutorial about how to configure and use a joystick with Eurofly.
Distance format combo box metric, kilometers collapsed.
Distance format is where you can set which kind of measurement units you want to use for distance readouts. So it's also a combo box that you can browse with the arrow keys, and you can either use the metric system, so kilometers and meters, etc.
Imperial, miles.
Or you can use the imperial one, that means miles.
Hide completed task packages checkbox checked.
Hide completed task packages. If you've just finished a series of flights, like charter flights, and you only want to see the ones that you haven't done yet in the menu, you can check this so that you will no longer see these packages that you've already finished. But obviously, if you like coming back to even to packages that you've done previously, you can keep this unchecked and you'll see even those that you've already completed.
Update in the background checkbox not checked.
Update in the background. The launcher will always check if there are any updates available, and if so, it will always download them. But sometimes the update can be really small. It can be just like a single file, or only the language strings, for example, could be updated. So sometimes you might not even notice that an update took place if it was really fast. Some people prefer to always know when an update has occurred. So if you leave this unchecked, meaning it will not update in the background, you will always be told that Eurofly has been updated. If you do check this, updates will happen silently.
OK button carriage return.
That's everything in the General tab, but there are 3 more tabs to go through.
Tab control. General. Map tab selected.
The next one is the Map tab.
Map combo box GeoNames 2016 collapsed.
Eurofly also supports, or this is more like a future-proof feature, supports using multiple different formats or types of maps. Currently, there's just this one available, GeoNames 2016, but later on, in the future, more different maps will become available, so you will be able to choose between them all here in this combo box.
Display list if too many results checkbox checked.
Display list if too many results. For example, when you're checking all the countries around you on the map, or as you fly, you'll be told them all. So if you're currently flying over a place where there's just one neighboring country to the north and another one to the south, let's say, that's just 2 countries, so it would just announce them. But then you could be flying over a different location where there could be like 5 or 6 neighboring countries, and that would be too many at once to even remember if they were announced all at once. So this checkbox controls whether you want the country names to be just announced in a single chunk all the time, or whether you are interested in seeing them in a list box in some cases. When this box is checked, this tells the program that you do want to use the list of results. And the next control in the window, after pressing tab,
display list if more than combo box 3 collapsed,
configures when the list should be displayed. Like if there are more than 3 countries in this case, as it's currently set, then they will not be just spoken, but they will be displayed in the list. So for example, if I was flying over Germany and it told me that there was the Czech Republic and Poland as the neighboring countries, since that's just 2 of them, it would only speak them as a single chunk. But if I was flying over the Czech Republic and the neighbors were Germany, Poland, Slovakia, and Austria, then I would already see those 4 in a list.
Separate results with the letter edit.
Separate results with the letter
semi.
I currently have it set to semicolon because some characters, when used as separators, have the nice benefit of inserting a certain pause or delay into the utterance of your synthesis. So this is useful for the cases where the results are not displayed in a list, but just announced as static text. In that case, you can put anything into this edit field, any character that you have proved to work well to insert a pause, so that it wouldn't say Poland, Germany, Austria, Slovakia, but it would say Poland, Germany, Austria, Slovakia.
Synchronize the movement and view cursors in manual map exploring checkbox checked.
By default, when this is checked, anytime you turn around on the map, anytime you change your rotation, the view cursor is also updated. So let's say that I am currently in the Czech Republic and I want to read countries to the north. And if I was facing north, it would say Poland. But if I then turned to the east and have this checkbox checked, and I then performed the check for countries ahead of me, it would no longer say Poland, but it would say Slovakia, because Slovakia is the east neighbor of the Czech Republic. There are situations when it's more beneficial to have this checked, and others where it's more beneficial to have it unchecked. So this is always up to you. I'll be talking about this in more detail in the next chapter, which will be dedicated to the map exploration itself.
Orientation of 0 combo box 0 is dead ahead collapsed.
The same goes for this orientation of 0 combo box, but you can always change these settings, change the behavior of these features on the fly with keystrokes.
Compass type combo box degrees collapsed.
And compass type as well. These are 3 settings that are usually applied only to map exploration.
Capital city range, km, combo box 35 collapsed.
Capital city range in kilometers. This is related to the audio indications of the various beacons that I was talking about before.
Important location range, km, combo box.
Important location range is the same, meaning if you have enabled the audio navigation for capital cities or important locations nearby, these 2 settings control like how near or how far away from you the indication should play. So you can change these values to be notified of capital cities or important locations nearby either sooner or later, basically, or farther away or closer to you.
Navigation tone interval, SEC, combo box 1 collapsed.
Navigation tone interval, this is for the audio navigation beacon that plays if you have turned on the audio navigation to your set destination or waypoint. So this setting, the frequency of the navigation tone, means how often, at which intervals the tone will play. And it's expressed in seconds, so you have to put seconds here.
Tolerance for monitoring the height above sea level, m, edit 0.
Tolerance for monitoring the height above sea level in meters is an interesting setting because there's a feature which can always look ahead and tell you if there's an obstacle in front of you which is higher than the terrain where you are currently at. This is true both for flying and for map exploration. So, for instance, let's say that I was flying at an altitude of 2,000 meters. And if I use this feature, it would tell me that there's a mountain at that altitude 20 kilometers ahead of me. So if I kept flying on course for another 20 kilometers and did not change my altitude, I would crash into that mountain. I will also talk about this more in the following chapters that talk about map exploration.
OK button carriage return.
So that's it for the map tab.
Tab control. Flight tab selected.
The next is flight.
Start each new day in the hangar checkbox checked.
Start each new day in the hangar. If this is checked, then every first flight we perform on a given day will always start in the hangar, and we will first need to drive the airplane out of the hangar before we can do anything else, before we can taxi along the airport. If this is unchecked, it may or may not start in the hangar. It's basically random.
Enable turbo checkbox checked.
Enable turbo. There's a feature that you can turn on or off with a keystroke during flight, which will let you use turbo mode, meaning the maximum speed of the airplane will be much faster. Someone may want to use this in order for longer flights to take less time. But if you do use turbo, your flight will not be rated and will not be ranked and will not be included in the leaderboard because you're essentially cheating. So for those who want to fly fair and do not want to cheat, and if you want to make sure that you will not be able to turn on the turbo mode even by accident, you can actually disable this checkbox right here in the settings. And if it's unchecked, that means that the keystroke to turn turbo on or off will not even work. It will not do anything at all if pressed even by accident during flight.
Number of milliseconds for a double key press combo box 150 collapsed.
The default value is 500. And this is used because there are some steering controls of the airplane that are accessed with a double press of the same key. For example, the T key, when pressed once, announces your current nose angle. So how steeply you're currently climbing or descending, while when pressed twice, it actually levels the nose so that you will then fly straight and will not climb or descend. And if you want to check the steepness of the climb or descent, you will naturally need to press the T key repeatedly to do that. Some people like to check this all the time when flying, and it's important to realize that if you press the T key too quickly, too rapidly in succession, the program will then interpret this as a single command consisting of a double key press, and it'll level your nose instead of telling you the current angle. So some people prefer, obviously, to have more time for it to be registered as a single command, as a double key press. Some people are faster on their keyboard, so they don't need as much time for a double key press. So you can change this value here. The default of 500 should be enough for most pilots.
Range of airport 1 km. Combo box 20 collapsed.
These next 3 combo boxes are the ranges for airports of category 1.
Range of airport 2 km.
Of category 2.
Range of airport 3.
And of category 3 in kilometers, meaning how far away from the airport your radio will reach the tower. You can actually change this. Currently, we have it set
Range of airport 1 km. 20
to 20 kilometers for category 1 airports, meaning the smallest ones.
Range of airport 2 km. Combo box 35 collapsed.
To 35 kilometers for category 2 airports.
Range of airport 3 km. Combo box 50 collapsed.
And to 50 kilometers for category 3 airports, meaning the largest ones. So for instance, if I was heading for Prague, for the main Prague airport, I would be able to contact the tower and ask for approach clearance up to 50 kilometers away from the airport.
Indicate course when turning on the ground. Combo box verbally collapsed.
Indicate course when turning on the ground. Here we can choose either verbally
with sounds
or
do not indicate.
With sounds or do not indicate at all. Verbally means it would just say our current heading. Every time the course changed, it would just say like 10 or 20 or 50 or 90 degrees, etc.
With sounds.
With sounds, that would just indicate the course change with another special beep.
Do not indicate.
Or do not indicate. It just doesn't say anything, even if our course is changing.
When turning, indicate course every combo box 10 degrees collapsed.
When turning, indicate course every, and we can choose either 10 degrees,
5 degrees,
or 5 degrees,
8 cardinal directions,
or 8 cardinal directions,
4 cardinal directions,
or 4 cardinal directions.
5 degrees.
If it was set to 5 degrees, we were facing north and we would start turning right, it would go like 0, 5, 10, 15, etc.
10 degrees.
10 degrees, it would go 10, 20, 30.
8 cardinal directions.
8 cardinal directions, it would go, because we're turning right, while having started facing north, so it would go northeast, east, southeast, south, etc.
4 cardinal directions.
Whereas 4 cardinal directions would announce our current heading only if it was straight north or straight east, or straight south or straight west.
10 degrees. Indicate course when turning in the air. Combo box verbally collapsed.
Indicate course when turning in the air. So there are 2 sets of controls for turning, but the first one that we've just been through is used when moving, when taxiing on the ground, whereas this next set, this is the same. Again,
with
you can
sounds.
choose with sounds.
Do not indicate.
Or do not indicate at all.
Verbally, when turning.
And then the next combo box is for how often the indication should play. But these next 2 ones are for when we are turning, like while flying in the air.
Indicate beacons by beeping. Checkbox checked.
Indicate beacons by beeping. That is used for the beacons at the airport that inform you of an approaching turning or junction that leads to a runway or to a taxiway, to the hangar, to the parking lot, or to a gate, etc. Some people prefer both verbal and auditory or like a beeping indication. If you uncheck this box,
not checked. Indicate beacons by beeping. Checkbox.
So indicate beacons by beeping unchecked, it will then just only call out the name of the respective gate or of the taxiway. And the callouts can never be turned off completely because you need to know that you're approaching one. But if you keep it checked, so it would also indicate those beacons by beeping besides just the verbal callouts, then you will also be able to tell by the sound of the beeping in which direction in relation to your position that beacon is located.
Contact the tower by combo box selecting from a list collapsed.
Contact the tower by either selecting from a list,
Typing,
or typing.
selecting from a list.
During flight, whenever you want to reach out to your tower and ask for clearance or for a gate assignment or for a landing runway assignment, etc., you bring up the respective window to do so, but you can either select from list box of all the available communications that you can tell the tower, or you could start typing the first few letters of the prompt that you want to say. That window to contact the tower always contains both the list with the items to choose from and the edit field. The difference is where you start in the window when you bring it up, where focus lands when bringing the window up. So essentially, if you prefer to type, you can set this here to contacting the tower by typing or vice versa, and it'll always save you that one extra press of the tab key every single time you need to contact the tower and ask them for something, and every single time you bring up that window.
OK button carriage return.
That's everything on the flight tab.
Tab control, systems tab selected.
And there's the last tab on the settings screen, and that is the systems tab.
Joystick mode checkbox not checked.
Joystick mode checkbox. If you play with a keyboard and if this box is unchecked, every time you press, for example, the right arrow key, you will turn or you will change the angle of your wings or wheels by 1 degree. If you want to change it by 10 degrees, you would need to press the right arrow 10 times. Or if you want to level the wings or wheels and put them in a straight line again, you would then need to press the left arrow 10 times. Whereas if you tick this checkbox, so that it would say joystick mode checked, pressing the arrow keys or pressing keys on the keyboard would behave as though you were controlling Eurofly with a joystick, meaning that if you press the arrow once, the angle of turning or of moving your nose would keep increasing as long as you hold the arrow key down. And since this can happen quite quickly with a keyboard, when holding down a key on the keyboard, you would then need to pay a lot of attention to how sharply you're turning or climbing or descending. And then when you let go of the key, the wings or wheels or nose would level. So that's the difference in behavior of the keys.
Status monitor edit height sped NASDIR letter loan.
The status monitor. If you're a Braille display user, this allows you to see the key information about the plane that you want to see on the Braille display. By changing the text in this edit field, you can change what exactly gets displayed on the Braille display by putting specific keywords here. For example, if you have a 40-cell Braille display, you may want to be able to see all the time the information about your current course and speed and altitude. You can put as many white space, for example, between the pieces of information as you like, etc. So you can put anything into this field that you want.
H. Sped. NASDIR.
And it has to be the specific keywords that the program recognizes.
D.
So for example, if we use
IR.
the keyword DIR, or dir for direction or course, that will then be substituted with the actual value of our current course in real time on the Braille display in flight. So first you configure the status monitor in here, what exactly you want to see on the status monitor, and then you can either turn it on or off with Alt+M during the flight itself. And to see the exact list of all the supported and recognized keywords, you can check out the game's website for the documentation. So eurofly.stafankiss.sk, and under the help link, you should look for the article called How to Use the Status Monitor.
OK button carriage return.
All right, so we've covered all the settings that you can tweak to your liking that Eurofly provides. Settings, so we can get back to the main menu. And That's it for part 2 of the tutorial series, and I'd like to invite you to part 3, where, as I said, I'll describe the features of the map exploration mode